Hello beautiful dreamers and welcome back to Life of a Dreamer. My name is Darian Wright. Thank you so much for tuning in today. So today's video is going to be a quick little short one, but I wanted to address some things because I get a lot of questions about like my hair texture, my curly ends, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned if you want to find out what that's about. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about my hair, and I ain't mad at it. I love talking about my hair, so I will answer any questions that anybody has because I love my hair and I love to spread any information that I can to help anybody. One question in particular, especially on TikTok, y'all follow me on TikTok if y'all do not, because a lot of these questions and things I'm going to address on this video come from questions that I get on TikTok especially, and some on YouTube. So y'all definitely follow me over there if you're not. Of course, I will have everything linked somewhere where you can find it. So one thing people like to ask me, especially if they're first seeing my hair for the first time, they like to ask me if it's all my hair. And yes, I've addressed this on I think every Microloc video I've done. This is all my hair. When I installed my Microlocs, I had my mom part the sections, pretty large sections, and then I just went to town making tiny twists. I didn't add any hair to thicken them out or any curls on the end. This is all my hair. And I think at this point when I'm making this video, I'm like 2 years and 7 months, 8 months in. So my hair is filled out really nicely. It's gotten really thick. I'll show you some befores and afters, and you know, it's looking really nice. Like I said, I love my hair, so I will talk about it all day long. I have not added anything to my ends. I know some people like to do that. Even with traditional locks, they'll go in and add curly ends, which I think is really pretty. It gives it a really unique and cool look. But this is all my hair, and I wanted to like kind of talk about how I maintain these ends because I get so many questions about it. So let's get into it. So I am in the middle of a retie right now. Don't look too close. I did the front and the very back. We still got to work on this middle part. But I thought this was a perfect time to make this video because this is a part of the process on how I maintain my curly ends. So back in one of my earlier videos, I think it was my wash day video, I addressed how I use gel on my curly ends just to keep them defined and keep them curled. I stopped that pretty quickly in the game just because it was unnecessary. Once my hair started doing what it needed to do, I started using like way less products. I think to this day I only use shampoo, conditioner, I use my oil mixture, I use a leave-in conditioner. So yeah, I've addressed that in a bunch of videos. I have everything linked down so you can check that out. But yeah, I used to use gel to help maintain my curly ends, but like I said, it wasn't necessary. My hair kind of curled up and started doing what it needed to do, so I just kind of left it alone. But something that I do and this is not like an everyday thing, but I do it especially during, well, it can be an everyday thing, and I'll tell you why. So during my reties, obviously you're going one by one, doing maintenance on each lock. So it's easier for me to see which locks need a little bit of maintenance. I can see which ones are like kind of puffing up and coming unraveled, so I can kind of fix those curly ends and address anything. But also, like on a day-to-day, I have hand and hair syndrome really bad. So I'm always touching on my hair, feeling on it, looking at it. So if I notice that one is kind of coming undone or kind of poofing up or getting a little tangled, I'll fix it right then and there on the spot. So it can be an everyday thing, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just obsessed. So for my hair texture, I would say I have all the fours on my head. I've always said that because I have like sections of my hair where the curl pattern is a little different. And if you don't know anything about like curl patterns or textures, there's a way to determine like if your hair is wavy, straight, curly, kinky, coily, all that kind of stuff. So like I've always said, I think I have all the fours in my head because the very back, I would definitely say that's 4C, very kinky, very tightly coiled. The front, I would say this front section, when I was a loose natural, I would say it wasn't even really a curl. It's more kind of like a zigzag pattern like you would get with the braid out. So maybe like a 4B mixed with a little C. I'm not sure. And then this middle, upper back middle part has always been like way less coarse, way softer, at times a bit wavy. So I'd probably say that's definitely like a 4A and maybe even a 3C. But like I said, growing up and like dealing with my natural hair, I've always said I had all the fours in my head because it's just like a bunch of textures all over the place. And you can definitely see that in my individual curls. Some of them are really tightly curled, some of them are loose, some of them are coils. So it plays really nicely, and I think that really helps with the thickness and fullness of my hair because the curls are kind of just doing what they do and they just kind of stack on top of each other, so it just looks really full and really nice. And I really love that about my hair. When I first installed my DIY Microlocs, they were a little bit thinner, the ends were a little bit stringier. They were curly. I love that about them like from day one, but now they filled out and I honestly don't even know how they do that. But they filled out really nicely and I really enjoy it. But I do want to talk about how I do like a little bit more maintenance on my retie days, because that's mostly when the maintenance of my curly ends happens, just because it's like part of the whole process. So on my wash days, before I do a retie, because I do wash my hair and I like to make sure it's clean and everything before I do a retie, and I do reties on damp hair, I don't really braid and band, and I never really have, but I do braid and band afterwards, because for me, I feel like I can get my hair really clean, really good when it's loose and free. But there are benefits to braiding and banding your hair during wash days. So I do recognize that. I just have to make it work for me, like how it's gonna work for me. And I think that has played a major role into my ends being curly, because at some point a lot of people with microlocs with curly ends just get tired of it and they just want to lock the whole thing down all the way to the end. But like I've said from the beginning, I've always loved that curly end look and I plan to maintain that as long as I can. That's just my preference. I know some people like the locked look all the way down, and you know, more power to them. I'm just doing what works for me and my hair. So after I do my wash day, I will braid and band my hair in sections as it dries, and that will kind of keep the curls from going all over the place. It keeps my locks uniform so they're not super frizzy and like out of control, and it's just a quick and easy way to get a bomb braid out with like no extra steps. So as a part of my reties, when I part my hair and kind of wrap around that new growth, in order to get that maintained look, I'll kind of wrap that new hair around, and sometimes it's long enough to like put into the twist, if that makes sense, because at this point I'd say with the full lock, all of this is interlocked and locked up, and then I'd say like about this much left is twisted, so I can undo that end and it's still twisted, but everything else up here is interlocked because it has been interlocked for like the past year now. So if there's any hair that needs to be added to the ends and it's long enough, I would just unravel that twist at that hair end, like smooth it out and retwist it. So a lot of these ends have been twisted and retwisted plenty of times, and they're not gonna lock because I keep undoing them. And as far as products that I use to maintain my curly ends, like I said before, I don't use the gel anymore, but that is an option, and they do have like different kinds of gels that won't be super hard or add a lot of buildup into your locks if that's something that you're looking for. One product that I really do love for my overall hair health, which I guess is kind of controversial in the lock world, but for me, once I installed my locks and I noticed what was going on with my hair, I just had to do what was good for me and my hair, and I noticed what my hair liked, what my hair didn't like, and that is where I've been, and it works for me. I love a good leave-in conditioner because after a wash day, I know some people just like to use shampoo and that's it. They don't even use conditioner, let alone a leave-in conditioner, because that is a way to kind of lock your hair faster. But for me, I need to feel that moisture, and also my hair is color treated. Like I dye my hair, so I need to make sure that moisture is still in there, because locks or not, the hair will break off. If it's dry and brittle and unhealthy and there's no moisture, it's not going to have anything to hold on to. It's going to be thirsty. It's going to be suffocating and dehydrated, and it's going to break off and die. So I love to use conditioner in my wash days, of course, and then a good leave-in conditioner. I will put that on my hair and then do my braid out, and I've noticed that's made a world of difference. My hair is not as dry or like as brittle when I use my leave-in conditioner, so that's definitely an important part in my step, and I think that's really helped with the curl health, especially with my color treated ends, because Lord, if you have had dry hair, especially colored dry hair, you know the difference when it feels healthy and moisturized and just overall good versus like when it's just dry and it is begging and screaming for help. Sometimes I'm able to just undo the twist and retwist it. Sometimes I have to like comb it out if there's like a tangle on the end, or if there's some part that's just like getting out of hand, I might have to comb it out. And even sometimes I have to cut the little tangle ends off, and that is perfectly fine because I'm all about hair health. But that is pretty much the gist of it. I just kind of undo the twist and redo it again. It's pretty straightforward. It does take a little patience and a little time if you want to commit to having curly ends, and I personally don't mind that. So I hope this helped y'all in some way. I get a lot of questions about my curly ends, so I wanted to address them more in depth. So don't forget to thumbs up this video, like it, share it with somebody who you think may help, and also follow me on my other social media, and subscribe down below and hit that bell because we have a lot more Microloc videos coming. Follow me on my other social media like my TikTok, my Instagram. I have everything linked below. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.